Greetings Warhammer enthusiast. Before you stands a voice assistant of the podcast, dedicated to spreading the greater good. If you find this information useful, please do not hesitate to leave a like and subscribe. Together, we shall explore the depths of the Warhammer universe and share in its wonders. In a galaxy fraught with conflict and turmoil, the 13th Black Crusade of Abaddon the Despoiler stood as one of the most harrowing confrontations between the forces of chaos and the might of the Imperium. The stakes were apocalyptic, as Abaddon plotted a master strategy known as the Crimson Path, a grand plan to summon untold legions of demons onto the surface of Cadia. Cadia, a fortress world of paramount strategic importance to the Imperium, served not just as a bulwark against the chaotic forces spilling out of the Eye of Terror, but also as a key anchor point in the galaxy's fabric of reality. Deep within the planet were the pylons, ancient and arcane devices that held back the overwhelming, chaotic tides of the warp, ensuring that the planet remained stable and habitable. Abaddon, with his insidious vision, sought to overload these pylons by invoking a vast number of demons to Cadia. The consequences of such an act were clear: the pylons would fail, and the warp's tumultuous energy would rush forth, transforming Cadia into a demon world. A planet once dedicated to the defense of mankind would become a hellish nexus of chaotic power. But the Despoiler's ambitions did not end with Cadia. With this new demon world as his base, he planned to leapfrog from one planet to the next within the Segmentum Obscurus. Each conquest would further amplify the warp rift, creating a cascading, chaotic tide that would eventually threaten the very heart of the Imperium, Terra. For Terra to be consumed by the Eye of Terror would mean not only the symbolic fall of humanity's birthplace, but also a metaphysical disaster of untold proportions. The throne world's engulfment by the warp would likely spell the end of humanity as the dominant force in the galaxy, giving way to an era of unending darkness and chaos. Both the Imperial and chaotic forces recognized the gravity of the situation, leading to the largest mobilization seen since the epochal conflict of the Horus Heresy. The battle that ensued was a desperate, apocalyptic confrontation, with the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance. In a galaxy perpetually shrouded in war, a shadow loomed ominously over the Cadian sector. Initial warnings came through unexpected sightings of space hulks, those colossal remnants of ancient battles, erupting from the warp. These immense constructs, some as ancient as the conflicts that shaped the galaxy, always heralded trouble. While the Adeptus Astartes, the Emperor's space marines, bravely boarded several of these hulks, and others were annihilated by the precise strikes of the sector's orbital defenses, a few managed to slip past the vigilant blockade. They descended upon worlds of strategic importance and prominent naval bases, wreaking havoc and leaving the sector's naval prowess in tatters. But it was the manifestation of the Plague Claw, the feared chaos vessel consecrated to the god of decay, Nurgle, in the outer domain of the Earthwart system that truly chilled the spines of those loyal to the Emperor. Leaving a trail of devastation in its wake, the Plague Claw painted entire planets with contagion, and hope seemed to wither wherever it cast its shadow. Admiral Quarren, a name synonymous with Valor in the Imperium, set his sights on hunting down this menace. However, in the murky mists of the Phrenorac's dust cloud, a dreadful revelation awaited him. The Chaos Fleet, rather than being led by a mere ship, was helmed by the Terminus Estate, the flagship of none other than Typhus of the Death Guard, Nurgle's chosen herald. The Admiral's fleet, though formidable, was caught off guard. They struggled, fighting valiantly against overwhelming odds, and managed a harrowing escape. The confrontation at Phrenorac's left deep scars on the Imperial forces. Now with little standing in his way, Typhus, atop his plague fleet, weaved a tapestry of affliction across the sector. Epidemics broke out, the likes of which the Officio Medici could barely comprehend, let alone counteract. As despair spread, apocalyptic sects rose from the affected worlds, sermonizing that this was the Emperor's retribution, a divine punishment for their transgressions. This period, dark and dire, became infamously known as the Plague of Unbelief. Everywhere it touched, chaos flourished. Fanatical sects took to the streets in violent uprisings against imperial governance. And as if that wasn't catastrophic enough, the plague itself bore horrific fruit: plague zombies. These abominations, birthed from the corpses of those consumed by the malady, plagued the worlds they inhabited. As the shadow of chaos stretched its tendrils across the Agrippina, Cadian, and Belli's Corona sectors, faith in the Imperium wavered. Doubt took root as cults emerged, fervently arguing that the Imperium had strayed from the true teachings of the Emperor. The sectors, already weakened by devastating plagues and largely unable to counteract the influence of these cults, bore witness to rising anarchy and unrestrained mob rule. Amid this disorder, new threats emerged. Bands of mysterious raiders, known for their ruthlessness, descended upon unsuspecting settlements and agri-worlds. These raiders emerged from the void without warning, leaving destruction in their wake and vanishing just as quickly. As worlds were left to pick up the pieces, those gifted with psychic foresight, the astropaths and readers of the Emperor's Tarot, painted an increasingly bleak picture of the future. On the fortress world of Cadia, ancient structures known as pylons mysteriously activated. These arcane edifices pulsated with intense psychic energy, almost as if they were making a desperate last stand. Their purpose became clear: they were attempting to stem the torrential flood of warp energies gushing from the Eye of Terror. Yet, in this valiant effort, they were slowly consuming themselves, a grim metaphor for the sacrifices the galaxy had to make. The Imperium's already precarious hold on the Agrippina sector seemed to loosen even further as the Imperial Navy's battle fleet, Agrippina, found itself overwhelmed. Between the internal chaos, the spread of pestilence, and relentless external raids, they were compelled to fall back, seeking sanctuary in their fortified bases. However, on the world of Lelithar, an even more significant threat arose. A charismatic leader emerged from the throngs of raving cultists and disillusioned masses. He declared himself the voice of the Emperor, a beacon for those disillusioned with the Imperium's rule. This voice's influence spread like wildfire, enveloping planet after planet. His call was simple yet seductive: rebel against the perceived tyrannical rule of the Imperium. The result was catastrophic, as his followers clashed with the devout adherents of the ecclesiarchy. Cities on worlds like Barel, Iea, Amistel, and Alberton turned into battlefields, with streets stained by the blood of the faithful and the rebels alike. The Imperium, realizing the magnitude of the threat this new figure posed, dispatched agents from the Officio Assassinorum, the most covert and deadly of the Emperor's servants, to eliminate the voice of the Emperor. Yet, their efforts, to the dismay of many, proved futile. The voice's influence only seemed to grow, and the galaxy braced itself for further conflict and turmoil. In the turbulent times leading up to the infamous 13th Black Crusade, the Word-Bearers, driven by their dark devotion, set their sights on a crucial target, the Boros Gate. This strategic point was vital for Abaddon's impending assault, and the Word-Bearers' Dark Council of Sicarus recognized its significance. At the forefront of this ambitious endeavor were the formidable figures of Echodas and Marduk. Commanding a colossal fleet of 13 battleships and supported by an army of 9,000 word-bearers and countless cultists, they were a force to be reckoned with. The word-bearers wielded the Nexus Arrangement, a nefarious Xenos artifact, to unleash waves of demons upon the battlefield and sow discord within the warp. The Boros Gate's defenders, the noble white consuls, bolstered by legions of the Imperial Guard, were caught off guard by this onslaught. The initial assault was brutal, devastating the Imperial ranks. The severity of the situation necessitated reinforcements. The white consuls called upon the fabled Grey Knights, but the Xenos artifact obstructed their arrival. As the battle raged on, Marduk, ever the strategist, sought to strike a blow to the morale of the Imperial forces. He dispatched Burias Drakshal, a deadly assassin, to eliminate Gaius Aquilius, the revered commander of the White Consuls. Aquilius was more than just a leader, he was a symbol of hope for the Imperial Guard regiments defending the planet. But the word-bearers had not counted on Chapter Master Titus Valens, whose timely intervention saved Aquilius from the assassin's blade. However, behind the curtains of the grand confrontation lurked treachery and internal conflicts. The entire campaign was in fact a ruse orchestrated by Khor Pharon's Brotherhood, led by Ashkenaz, to purge those loyal to Erebus from their ranks. But the situation took another unexpected twist when the Undying One and his Necron forces entered the fray, drawn by the allure of the Nexus Arrangement. Amidst this chaos, Marduk, with his typical cunning, thwarted the Brotherhood's conspiracy. Using a vortex grenade, he obliterated the Nexus arrangement, tearing a pathway for his escape towards Sycharis. This act had a silver lining for the beleaguered defenders. With the artifact's destruction, the Grey Knights could finally descend upon Boros Prime, turning the tide of the battle in favor of the Imperium. But Marduk's treachery knew no bounds. He coldly betrayed Grand Apostle Echodas to further consolidate his power within the Word-Bearers. Echodas met his grim end at the hands of the relentless Grey Knights. The campaign, while victorious for the Imperium, came at a steep cost. Of the proud and valiant Space Marines who fought, only 3 survived the catastrophic engagement. Amidst the ever-darkening storm clouds of impending war and insurrection, Cadia stood resilient, an unwavering bulwark against the encroaching tide of chaos. As the malignancy of chaos swelled in the neighboring regions around the Eye of Terror, Cadia's defense became paramount. Recognizing the growing threat, the Cadian High Command made an audacious call: all regiments of Cadian shock troops would muster on Cadia. As part of this unprecedented mobilization, Tyrok fields were quickly expanded, with the addition of hundreds of landing fields ready to receive the incoming reinforcements. Soon, the vast expanses of Tyrok fields swelled with millions of Imperial troops. Among these was the Volskani Regiment, a force celebrated as some of the sector's most formidable warriors. Given their esteemed reputation, the Cadian High Command deemed it fitting to personally receive them upon their arrival. But as the Volskani descended, the atmosphere of camaraderie and readiness soon morphed into one of horror and treachery. In a heart-stopping moment, the banners of the Imperium were cast aside, replaced with the malevolent symbols of chaos. Without warning, the Volskani, now zealous agents of darkness, unleashed their fury, turning the Leviathan Super Heavy Transport's weapons on the unsuspecting leadership. The Command Leviathan, hosting the governor of Cadia, Marlis Perelska, became a flaming wreck, signaling the abrupt annihilation of much of the Cadian High Command. The fields of Tyrok, once a symbol of unity and strength, were transformed into arenas of savagery, with the traitorous Volskani showcasing the brutality for which they were infamous. The ensuing battle was both intense and chaotic, with the Cadian forces reeling from the unexpected betrayal. Amid this bedlam, a figure rose, exemplifying determination and tactical prowess. Usaka E. Creed, recognizing the direness of the situation, rallied the beleaguered Cadian forces. Taking charge, he orchestrated a meticulously planned counteroffensive against the Volskani. With cunning and sheer willpower, Creed's forces slowly turned the tide, encircling and eventually decimating the traitorous Volskani, albeit with significant losses. Yet, as the Cadians battled on the fields, an insidious event unfolded deep within the fortress of Kasavazan. The governor Secundus's most trusted advisor was found succumbing to a grotesque transformation, his body exhibiting the unmistakable signs of Nurgle's plague. Recognizing the threat, the elite Kaskin troops swiftly sealed the fortress, entombing everyone within, ensuring the pestilence would not spread further. The aftermath of the day's events laid bare a chilling reality: chaos was poised for a grand offensive. The governance of Cadia had been dealt a devastating blow, with the governor and much of the Cadian Interior Guard's leadership gone. The mantle of responsibility now rested squarely on Creed's shoulders, who was soon declared the Lord Castellan of Cadia. With the weight of the entire planet's defense on his shoulders, Creed took swift action, directing the beleaguered Cadian forces to fortify their positions. Understanding the magnitude of the looming threat, he also reached out across the vastness of the Imperium, pleading for reinforcements. The urgency of his request was apparent, and the vast bureaucratic machinery of the Administratum, alongside the stalwart chapters of the Space Marines, answered his call. The sector began buzzing with preparations, as fleets mobilized and troops readied, uniting under the looming shadow of the chaos threat. Amidst these large-scale preparations, an intense skirmish played out. The sinister Night Lords, led by the cruel and sadistic Tyrok Darkblood, clashed with the forces of the Imperium. In response to this new threat, Creed made a daring decision. A squad of Kaskin, elite Imperial troops known for their discipline and skill, were dispatched deep into the Eye of Terror itself. Their mission was perilous: to gather intelligence, to identify where the Chaos forces would strike first. However, this desperate venture into the heart of chaos proved catastrophic. The Cadian force found itself trapped on Earthward, a demon world known for its malevolence. Their predicament worsened as the formidable Chaos vessel, the Planet Killer, set its sights on them. In a cataclysmic event, Earthward imploded, obliterating the Cadian force. This disaster heralded an even more ominous sight. From the swirling vortex of the Eye of Terror emerged a colossal Chaos fleet. This armada, vast and menacing, was comprised of warships, hulking space hulks, and an array of transports. Among their numbers were infamous vessels like the Plagueclaw and Terminus Estate, as well as 2 captured Blackstone fortresses, a testament to their might. Recognizing the impending assault, Imperial Admiral Pulaski rallied the available Imperial ships in the Ormentep system. Their objective was clear: to stall the advancing Chaos behemoth, to buy Cadia's defenders precious time to ready their defenses. This brave fleet confronted the Chaos Armada with valor, but despite their best efforts, they were overwhelmed by the sheer might of the Chaos forces. Amidst the carnage, Admiral Quarren masterfully managed a tactical retreat, saving remnants of his beleaguered fleet. However, this maneuver had a heavy cost. It opened a pathway for a faction of the Chaos fleet to unleash havoc upon the Agrippina sector, leaving devastation in its wake. Abaddon had initiated his most audacious campaign yet. The skies above Cadia were set ablaze as an immense orbital bombardment rained down. This bombardment was not just an assault on the planet's physical structures, but also an attempt to shatter the spirit of its indomitable defenders, the Cadian shock troopers. Such was its ferocity that even these seasoned warriors, known across the galaxy for their unyielding spirit, felt the weight of Abaddon's wrath. But the bombardment was merely the precursor to a ground invasion the likes of which Cadia had never witnessed. Pouring from the warp rifts and storming from landing crafts, legions of Chaos Space Marines, accompanied by the sinister Lost and the Damned, demons of all kinds, and towering titans, surged onto the planet's surface. They sought not just victory, but the complete annihilation of Cadia and its people. Yet, in these dire times, legends would rise. From the cold depths of the cosmos came the legendary 13th Company of the Space Wolves. Their reputation was one of valor and might, a beacon of hope in an age of darkness. Together with the Cadian forces, they formed an indomitable line of defense against the tide of chaos. Every street, every trench, every bunker became a battleground where the fate of Cadia was decided. But as land battles raged, another theater of war saw intense action. The vast void of space around Cadia became a deadly dance of starships and fighter craft. The Imperial Navy, initially overwhelmed by the Chaos forces, received an influx of reinforcements from the distant Cipra Mundi. With fresh ships and a renewed spirit, they rallied behind the strategic genius of Admiral Quarren. Quarren, understanding the gravity of the situation, crafted strategies that allowed the Imperial Navy to punch well above its weight. Employing guerrilla tactics, ambushes, and the superior training of his crew, he managed to turn the tide against Chaos fleets that dwarfed his own in size and firepower. The skies above Cadia began to clear, as one by one, Chaos ships were either destroyed or forced to retreat. And just when it seemed the momentum had irrevocably shifted, reinforcements arrived in the form of the entire battle fleet Gothic from the Belli's Corona system. Their presence was not just strategic but symbolic. The mightiest fleet in the galaxy had thrown its weight behind Cadia, signaling the Imperium's commitment to defend the planet at all costs. The message was clear: the Imperium would not let Cadia fall. The combined might of the Imperial Navy waged a relentless campaign, pushing Abaddon's forces back towards the Cadian Gate. Each victory, each ship destroyed, was a testament to the skill, valor, and determination of the Imperial forces. This was not just a battle for a planet, it was a battle for the very soul of the Imperium. While the Imperial Navy reinforcements bolstered the defenses of Battlefleet Cadia, Abaddon would unveil the next step in his plan. The sinister Word-Bearers Legion, under the guiding hand of the infamous Dark Apostle Erebus, began their own nightmarish campaign. Across multiple worlds, they conducted unspeakable rituals, tearing the veil between reality and the warp. This resulted in cataclysmic warp storms erupting across sectors surrounding the Eye of Terror. Demons, creatures of pure malevolence, spilled forth into the galaxy, plunging worlds such as Celis and Caliban into madness and devastation. These sectors, now isolated from the rest of the Imperium, found themselves bearing the full wrath of the chaos. Despite the looming darkness, the flame of resistance refused to be extinguished. From Cadia itself, a counteroffensive was launched, orchestrated by the indomitable Creed and spearheaded by the lightning-fast warriors of the White Scars chapter. In a brilliant series of maneuvers, they took the fight to chaos, catching many of their enemies off guard. Their resistance, combined with the legendary tenacity of the Cadian Gate defenders, became a beacon of hope. The call for aid was answered in a grand fashion. Space Marine chapters, the Adeptus Astartes, from across the galaxy arrived to bolster the defenses and reclaim lost ground. The Blood Angels, under the leadership of their sanguinary priests, clashed against the brutal World Eaters, achieving a significant victory on Casapartox. On Agrippina, they faced down the terrible forces of Cossalax and a towering bloodthirster, ensuring another world would not fall into the hands of chaos. Elsewhere, ancient rivals, the Dark Angels and the Space Wolves, united in a rare show of solidarity. Led by their respective leaders, Supreme Grand Master Azrael and Great Wolf Logan Grimnar, they confronted the pestilent forces of Typhus on multiple fronts. The tide seemed to be turning in favor of the Imperium with the arrival of the Black Templars, Imperial Fists, and even the mysterious Grey Knights led by Lord Inquisitor Torquemada Cotias. These combined forces managed to challenge and push back chaos on multiple fronts. The legendary White Scars, known for their swift hit-and-run tactics, forced Abaddon into a precarious position, eventually encircling his forces and delivering a devastating blow. Yet, as hope began to swell among the Imperial ranks, the Word-Bearers completed their darkest ritual. A gargantuan warp storm engulfed the entire region around the Eye of Terror. The storm was so intense that it severed the war zone from the wider galaxy, preventing any further reinforcements from reaching the embattled forces of the Imperium. The shadow of the Planet Killer, a monolithic weapon of destruction, began its slow and terrifying approach towards Cadia, marking the war's impending climax. To further complicate matters for the Imperium, Xenos threats emerged. A splinter of the Tyranid Hive Fleet Leviathan began its incursion towards Segmentum Obscurus, while Orc warbands, in a wave of destructive frenzy, launched their own campaign upon the Scarus sector, dubbing it the Green Crusade. The fortress world of Cadia stood as the last bastion against the tides of chaos. Once surrounded by the protective embrace of its moons, Cadia now found itself isolated, its lunar sentinels reduced to barren wastelands by the relentless assault of Abaddon's forces. The once impregnable Vilclas and Ander defensive lines lay in ruins, testaments to the devastation wrought by the forces of the archenemy. On the surface, the planet bore the scars of countless battles. Cadia teetered on the brink, seemingly ready to fall into the abyss. The grim specter of Abaddon's nefarious plan loomed large, with his intentions to expand the malevolent radius of the Eye of Terror becoming terrifyingly palpable. Such an outcome would plunge untold systems into an age of darkness and anarchy. To deal with the escalating crisis, the Cadian High Command made a tactical relocation to the planet's far side, seeking a more defensible position. Here, around the fortified city of Kasrgallan, the beleaguered Imperial forces mustered, bracing for the inevitable, cataclysmic push by the seemingly unstoppable forces of chaos. The fate of Cadia and the wider galaxy hung in the balance, with every faction, whether for the Imperium or against it, playing their part in the grand tapestry of war. The calamity that Cadia faced was becoming unbearable. Abaddon, the despoiler himself, launched an aggressive assault on the last major bastion of Imperial resistance on the planet, Kasr-Kraf. All that stood between him and utter domination were the broken yet unyielding remnants of the Imperial forces. Their ranks, although depleted, were an assembly of some of the most renowned names across the galaxy. Creed leading the indomitable Cadian shock troops, Orvan Highfell and Sven Bloodhowl of the venerable Space Wolves, Corahale of the Dark Angels' 4th Company, Marshal Marius Amalrich leading the zealous Black Templars of the Cruxis Crusade, the courageous Sisters of the Order of Our Martyred Lady under Eleanor and Genevieve, the towering Knights of House Raven under Vardus, and a motley array of other formations that had survived the brutality of the campaign thus far. Abaddon's renewed offensive was as relentless as it was merciless. Spearheading the assault were regiments of traitor guard who revealed their treachery only at this dire hour, and the indomitable Iron Warriors, infamous for their siege warfare prowess. As the hordes of chaos bore down upon them, Creed made a startling revelation. He unveiled his salvation bases. These underground installations were clandestine factories, tirelessly producing tanks to replenish the dwindling numbers of Imperial armor. With this timely reinforcement, Creed and his forces steeled themselves against the chaos onslaught, refusing to give in. Meanwhile, in the cold void of space, Abaddon's fleet mounted a fresh orbital offensive, leading the charge with the dreaded Blackstone Fortress, the Will of Eternity. This formidable vessel, known for its planet-destroying capabilities, loomed over Cadia, a grim specter of destruction. With the planet's defensive shields incapacitated, Cadia was on the precipice of annihilation. In this dire situation, the Space Wolves proposed a daring plan. They would hold off the orbital assault, embarking on a suicidal delaying operation, buying the Mechanicum on the planet's surface precious time to restore the planetary shields. Desperate and against the clock, the Mechanicum turned to a drastic measure. They sought aid from Xeno's technology, a move usually considered heresy by the Imperium's strict doctrines. However, in the face of extinction, such transgressions seemed trivial. The gamble paid off. Utilizing this alien technology, the Mechanicum prevailed, restoring the shields and thwarting the Will of Eternity's apocalyptic intent. For now, Cadia still stood, a beacon of defiance in the encroaching darkness. Determined to ascertain the cause of these disturbances, Trazyn turned to one of the galaxy's most mysterious and potent devices, the Celestial Orrery. This intricate contraption offered its user a bird's-eye view of the galaxy and its myriad celestial events. Through its arcane mechanisms, Trazyn traced the source of the disturbances back to the swirling tempest of the Eye of Terror, a maelstrom of chaotic energies and a bastion of the dark powers of chaos. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Trazyn decided to take matters into his own hands. Cadia, the fortress world standing sentinel at the edge of the Eye, beckoned him. Almost concurrently, on a distant and desolate world scarred by the horrors of the Fourth Black Crusade, Mechanicum Mago's Belisarius Call was on a quest of his own. Guided by the enigmatic whispers of Salandri Veilwalker, a Harlequin shadow seer, Call unearthed an astonishing find. The planet was dotted with pylons, ancient and enigmatic structures eerily reminiscent of those on Cadia. Veilwalker, always cryptic in her intentions and words, urged Call to set course for Cadia, suggesting that the fate of this world and the pylons therein were interwoven in ways Call couldn't yet comprehend. The beleaguered Imperials, staunchly holding their ground on Cadia, would soon receive another ray of hope. The mighty Phalanx, an ancient and awe-inspiring fortress monastery of the Imperial Fists, was en route. Fresh from its own victorious skirmish against the forces of chaos, the gargantuan warship set its sights on Cadia, determined to lend its formidable might to the defenders of the Cadian Gate. The convergence of these powerful entities on the besieged world promised an epic showdown, as the forces of order and chaos clashed in a battle that would echo through the annals of history. In the vast shadow of the formidable Cadian bastion known as Casocraph, the ground trembled once more as Abaddon, the despoiler, marshaled his forces for another ground assault. The skies above were choked with the dark silhouettes of chaos dropships, and the land below rumbled under the weight of traitor titans from the infamous Legio Vulcanum. These mechanical behemoths, symbols of mankind's ancient might, had been twisted and corrupted by the insidious powers of chaos. And though they inflicted significant damage on the Imperial defenders, they weren't invincible. Each step they took was met with the defiant roar of the Cadian guns, and they too would suffer losses. To spearhead this crucial invasion, Abaddon entrusted the task to the demon prince Acanthos. The skies blazed with fire and fury as Acanthos descended upon the Elysian fields, his singular objective being the capture of Cadia's last remaining shield generator complex. In a series of brutal confrontations, he faced and slew both canonesses, Eleanor and Genevieve, seemingly sealing the fate of the crucial installation. However, just when it seemed that the darkness of chaos would envelop Cadia, unexpected allies emerged to turn the tide. Trazyn the Infinite, with his uncanny knack for manipulation, commandeered chaos tanks, setting them upon their bewildered allies. But perhaps the most awe-inspiring moment came with the sudden, radiant appearance of Saint Celestine. A beacon of hope and a paragon of the Emperor's light, she led a contingent of lost sisters of battle into the fray. With her at the helm, the beleaguered Lord Castellan Creed orchestrated a fierce counterattack. In a climactic confrontation, Saint Celestine, showcasing her divine might, resurrected the fallen canonesses, Genevieve and Eleanor. Together, they confronted and vanquished the monstrous Acanthos, a blow that significantly weakened the Chaos Assault. Yet, the skies had one more spectacle to display. The colossal phalanx, a testament to the glory of the Imperium, emerged over Cadia. Its guns, unmatched in power and precision, targeted the Blackstone fortress known as the Will of Eternity. As the fortress's shields faltered under the relentless assault of Sven Bloodhowl's borders, the phalanx delivered a devastating blow, shattering the malevolent vessel and forcing the remnants of the Black Legion fleet to reconsider their position. As the smoke and fire of the confrontation began to clear, Abaddon, his face contorted in rage and frustration, made a solemn vow. The despoiler would return, and the next assault would be led by him personally. In the wake of the fierce battles and the momentary retreat of Abaddon's forces, the Imperial defenders of Cadia found a brief respite. As the dust settled on the scarred landscapes of the embattled world, the sound of fresh dropships heralded the arrival of much-needed reinforcements. From the heavens descended the resolute Imperial fists, their yellow armor standing in stark contrast to the bleak landscape. Alongside them came spectral warriors from the Legion of the Damned, their ghostly flames a testament to their undying loyalty to the Emperor. The Crimson Fists, led by the stalwart Ruiz Tracinto, brought with them an air of determination, having faced and survived their own ordeals in the past. Mighty House Tyranni sent forth their towering knights, while the enigmatic Archmagos Belisarius Call brought with him a fleet teeming with Scitarii, the armed forces of the Adeptus Mechanicus. As these new forces established their presence, an urgent war council convened. Here, amidst the battle-worn commanders and venerable heroes, Call shared his chilling insights. He revealed the true aim of Abaddon's relentless assault on Cadia, to obliterate the ancient pylons that held at bay the inexorable tide of the warp. If successful, the warp would surge forth, consuming vast swathes of reality and reshaping the very fabric of the galaxy. The revelation brought a grave weight to the gathered leaders, but it was in this somber mood that an unlikely alliance was forged. Trazyn the Infinite, a being from the ancient Necron race, proposed a collaboration. Though his motives were shrouded in mystery, his intent to halt the spread of chaos was clear. The ancient Xenos pledged to preserve the pylons that held the warp in check, understanding the galactic consequences of their failure. With a hesitant agreement in place, Call and Trazyn ventured deep into the catacombs beneath Cadia. There, in the darkness, they worked fervently to modify and reinforce the pylons. In the midst of the renewed chaos assault, the air was thick with desperation and defiance. The traitor legions, ravenous for victory, were met with a fierce resistance spearheaded by Celestine and her stalwart sisters of battle. Their radiant presence on the battlefield seemed to lift the spirits of the Imperial defenders, bolstering their resolve. But Abaddon had set his sights on eliminating the command structure of the beleaguered Imperial forces. With a sudden shift in reality, he and his elite bringers of despair teleported into the heart of the Imperial command post, expecting to find Creed. Instead, the towering figure of Jaran Kell greeted them, determination evident in his eyes. With an unparalleled valor, Kell managed to delay Abaddon, buying enough time for Creed to escape, though this act of bravery cost him his life. Down in the subterranean tunnels of Cadia, the rumblings of another clash echoed. Trazyn the Infinite unleashed his Tesseract labyrinth, and from its depths, emerged heroes from the annals of Imperial history. The stoic Ultramarines of the Horus Heresy era, the indomitable Vostroyans and Tanith Imperial Guard, the fiery Salamanders, and the relentless Inquisitor Greyfax with her retinue. Yet, as fate would have it, even these mighty reinforcements struggled against a tidal wave of newly summoned demonic entities that poured into the confines of the tunnels. However, hope was not lost. The howls and roars of the space wolves resonated, and with them, the fearsome Wolfen. Their arrival, combined with Celestine and her twin guardians' direct challenge to Abaddon, seemed to shift the momentum. At this pivotal moment, Deep below the surface, the pylons hummed to life. Trazen and Call's tireless efforts bore fruit. As these ancient structures activated, their influence swept the battlefield. Warp-fueled entities, including Celestine and the ethereal Legion of the Damned, found their powers waning. The demons shrieked in frustration, their connection to the warp severed, causing the very fabric of the Immaterium to retreat, pushing back even the baleful expanse of the Eye of Terror. The tumultuous battlefield was thrown into further chaos. Only those untouched by the warp remained in their full might. The Black Legion, the traitorous Astartes, seized this opportunity, capitalizing on the weakened state of the Imperial forces. As Abaddon loomed over the debilitated Celestine, ready to strike the final blow, an unexpected counterattack was launched. Inquisitor Greyfax, leading a resolute cadre of Cadian and Vostroyan soldiers, came to the fore. Creed himself, burning with fervor, engaged Abaddon in a fierce duel. The exchange was brutal, with Creed losing an arm to Abaddon's vicious blows. But just as it seemed the end was near for the heroic Creed, Celestine, mustering her diminished strength, rose to her feet. With a swift and unyielding strike, she drove her sword through the surprised Chaos Warmaster, a beacon of hope shining once again for the defenders of Cadia. Abaddon, gravely injured, had no choice but to retreat. With the screeching echoes of teleportation, he and the remnants of the Black Legion made their desperate exit. On the bridge of the vast flagship, the Vengeful Spirit, a weakened Abaddon ordered a strategic withdrawal from the Cadian system. Yet, the Chaos Warmaster's pride would not allow him to depart without a parting blow. Fueled by spite and bitterness, Abaddon commanded the remains of the once mighty Blackstone Fortress, the Will of Eternity, be sent crashing onto Cadia. With the thrust of colossal engines, fragments of the fortress were hurled at the planet. Complemented by the apocalyptic fire from the feared planet killer, the impact was cataclysmic. Cadia, the bastion of the Imperium's defense for millennia, began to fracture. The land trembled, the skies darkened, and amidst this devastation, the pylons, those ancient structures holding back the warp, started to waver. With the very ground splitting beneath their feet, the order was given, evacuate Cadia. In the face of impending doom, the indomitable spirit of the Cadian forces shone brightly. They valiantly battled through encroaching enemy lines, attempting to reach whatever evacuation points were still intact. High above, amidst the stars, a chaotic dance of desperation ensued. Imperial Navy vessels, under constant threat from the lurking Chaos Fleet and the ever-encroaching warp energies, made frenzied efforts to rescue as many survivors as they could. The scenario was a grim testament to the horrors of war, with ships overloaded with refugees, and countless others left behind. The forces of chaos, true to their unpredictable nature, displayed no loyalty or concern for their own. Abandoning their vast armies, they left millions of their own traitorous guardsmen and fervent cultists stranded on the dying planet. A bitter end for those who had once betrayed the Emperor's light. Amidst the chaos and ruin, with Cadia's pylons faltering, a beacon of hope and faith, Celestine surged to her full might once again. With renewed vigor, she rallied and orchestrated a strategic retreat of the beleaguered Imperial forces from the condemned world of Cadia. As they retreated, Creed and his loyal Cadian Eighth made a valiant stand, forming an impenetrable shield against the resurgent demonic legions that sought to engulf them. High above the planet, amidst the vastness of space, the colossal phalanx led the remnants of the Imperial fleet to safety, guiding them away from the accursed system as Cadia, the once mighty fortress world, was inexorably consumed by the warp.
In the upcoming episodes, delve deep into the mysteries of the secondary invasions of the 13th Black Crusade during the pivotal battle for Cadia, and witness the awe-inspiring resurrection of Robout Guilliman. To ensure you don't miss a single moment of this thrilling saga, subscribe to our channel and ring that bell for notifications. Join us on this galactic journey.